Welcome to our Preparing for Midterm webinar for students and parents. We are very happy to present this information to all the students to help them prepare for the midterms. Midterms are 2.5 weeks away, and we're hopeful that they are preparing and getting ready for these exams. With us today is the counselors from the BG Counseling Department. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Brenda Kwasniewski. I'm the Senior Director of School Counseling and Admission here at BG. And with me is Mr. Mullen, our Associate Director, Mrs. Tenza, a School Counselor, Mrs. Leonard, School Counselor, and Ms. Futrell, our School Counselor. So we're very happy to have you here. We hope that you will find this helpful. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about why we have midterms, what the importance is, and what it helps prepare students for their future. How do they factor into the grade? What is the percentage of the test that gets factored into the grade and why? What students need to do to prepare. We have lots of ideas and lots of supportive measures for the students to prepare well and be ready for these exams. What are the supporting measures available to students? We'll share that. Managing stress. Obviously, this is a very stressful time for many students. Not only are midterms coming, but there's a lot of athletic tryouts going on, different clubs and activities, very busy with the holidays and things like that. So we know that there is a lot going on for all of the students, as well as for you and your family. What to think about and some strategies for during the exam when the students are taking the exam. Keeping perspective. What does this all mean? It's one test, and we want to make sure the students understand that this is not something that is going to keep them out of college. It's something that they need to build some skills for, and each year it will become easier and easier for them to take these and be prepared for them. And obviously taking care of yourself. Students need to make sure that they are ready to go for these exams because they are long and they are stressful. And we hope that we will be able to give you some great advice and support throughout this time. I'm going to pass it over to Ms. Tenza, who will talk to you about why we have midterms.
Thank you, Mrs. Poznansky. I want to start by saying thank you all for joining us today and listening to this important information about midterms. For a lot of students, especially the freshmen, it's their first exposure to a cumulative test like this. So we are just hoping to take this opportunity to answer some questions and to maybe alleviate some anxieties or stressors that, kind of surround midterms. So we'll jump right into it. Why do we have midterms? At BG, there are really three main reasons that we decide to conduct midterms. And the first one is to check for the understanding of the material. So the midterms are really used to help teachers identify where students might be struggling and conversely, where they are excelling. So the info that the teachers glean from the results really gives them targeted feedback about what the students are grasping and helps the teachers identify where additional support might be needed. And the results from the midterms can really highlight the strengths and the areas that may need reteaching or reinforcement for the students. The second reason that we conduct midterms is to really make sure that we've balanced our curriculum. So it gives the teachers an idea on how well the course structure, the class curriculum, the breadth, the depth are resonating with the students. So it allows some room for the teachers to adjust. So say if the majority of students are struggling in a particular area, the teachers can adjust the material moving forward so they can kind of tailor the instruction to the class. So for instance, if they see that the class has mastered the material, they can dig a little deeper into the material. And if they see that the students have been struggling a little bit, they can reinforce material that was challenging to the students if need be. The third reason we conduct midterms is so that the students can practice and prepare for college. So students will have midterms in college. So this experience just kind of builds familiarity, confidence, and academic stamina that will help the students beyond high school and into college, into a career, into training programs, whatever they may pursue after high school. So the midterm experience mimics college midterms. So if a student has the opportunity to practice the full process from studying and organizing large amounts of information, it helps them manage time during the exam and coping with stress and emotions that come with major assessments. And again, preparing for these cumulative exams, which they may not have had to do in middle school or in other high schools if they have transferred in. And lastly, and also importantly, we feel that the students learn some academic responsibility and independence. They have to learn time management, note-taking skills, study skills to prepare for these. So despite what the students say, it's really not just to torture them, but to hone the hard and soft skills throughout the semesters in the school year. Again, these skills will follow them into really any career path that they may choose to pursue. Mr. Mullen, would you mind? Thank you. And then how do they factor into the student's grade? So there's always a little bit of confusion around this. So the midterm exam itself counts for 20% of the semester grade. Now, the midterm grade is only displayed on their report card. It is not displayed on their transcript. So it doesn't follow them to college. It is considered in the semester grade, but again, only displayed on the report cards, not the transcript itself. So, all right, I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Mullen. He's going to talk about some more important information.
Thanks, Ms. Tenza. So we talked about what the midterms are, but now we need to talk about a little bit more about how you as students or families can support them in preparing for the exam. So we're roughly 2 weeks away from the exams themselves. So what the students should be doing is talking or checking in with their teachers to make sure they're studying the right information, asking for help, or make sure that they understand the concepts fully. Even if that check-in is just asking your teacher to see what you've done for note-taking is the right way or that you're studying the right way, just as like a positive reassurance or reinforcement, if you will, so that you understand what you're doing is the right way and doing the best you can for prepping. You want to make sure that you're organizing and reviewing your notes, even rewriting them to help you remember the information goes a long way, because you're going to be taking, 6 or 7 exams, making sure that you can do as much as you can do to prep for the exams. Review any study guides that the teachers may have given you or will give you in preparation for the exams. Our hope is that all of the teachers are doing this in the coming days and weeks so that you're doing as much as you can do to prepare yourself as effectively as you can for the exams, and start studying for the exam. I mean, it may seem like it's a ways away, but when you factor in potential snow days or other interruptions, there isn't really a lot of time left to make sure that you're prepping as much as you can do for the exam itself. You can never study enough, basically is what we're trying to get at. As we get closer, 1 week or so, keep reviewing and studying, make sure you're resting and eating well. It can be very tiresome and stressful, so you want to make sure you're getting your full allotment of sleep and eating, making sure you're not burning the candle at both ends, if you will, so that you're not getting sick right before the exams. And you want to be as rested as you possibly can leading into the exams. The one thing we want to kind of get across, and all of us will probably say it in different ways, is don't panic if you don't know the answer to the first question. Really, you have plenty of time to go back and try and look at the material and make sure that you're prepared as you can. And if you don't know it, I'm sure that as you go through the test, things may click. If you've done all the test prep and studying that you've done leading up to it, you'll probably have a good understanding of the test itself and how it's framed for each question. All right, so what are some supporting measures that students can use that are here within the BG community? Obviously, we have our teaching faculty before and after school, during lunch and academic periods. A lot of the teachers are going to be in the library if they're not already there during their test periods or during their free periods, I should say, to kind of reinforce what you're doing. Some of your teachers you may have already for study halls, or there may be a teacher in the specific area that is free during when you are also free. So make sure you're seeking them out, asking them if they can reinforce again some of the strategies and lessons you may be taught. We talked about the study guides. Hopefully the teachers are giving you study guides and you're using those to kind of use as kind of launching pads for test prep. keeping return tests and quizzes, making sure you're going over those, making sure you're going over, more importantly, where you made mistakes, learning from those mistakes and seeking out your teachers if you're unsure about where you made a mistake with that formula, what the grammatical issue was, or if there was an issue with math and whatnot. Form study groups, that's a really good way to kind of bounce ideas off of peers and see that if someone has a different way of doing things. Seek out honor societies, which is offering free tutoring. There's a slide that will talk about that. Making sure as parents, you're kind of monitoring what your son or daughter is doing while they're studying, limiting the phone use, limiting any sort of technology so that they're just focusing on, what's in front of them and reinforcing the skills that they're being taught in classroom. Make sure you take a break. You don't want to study for a full 8-10 hour day, if that's something is your goal. Make sure you take breaks, go for a run, exercise, do things that are going to kind of let you turn off and reset while you're prepping for it. And then make sure that you do your best to make sure you come for the scheduled midterm. It's hard to make up an exam after the fact because a lot of the material just may not be at the front of your brain. You want to make sure you're as prepared as you can be for those. Obviously, there will be situations where you may not feel well. And if that's the case, let your teachers know ahead of time. What are some of the supporting measures available to students? I talked about it, but NHS, National Honor Society, will be offering tutoring next Monday through Wednesday from 2:30 to 4:30 in the Beaumont Center. I believe it's a drop-in option, so you'll have the opportunity to stop in for as long as you want, for as short as you want, and work with as many NHS students in there that can help you with any sort of aspects of the tutoring for any subjects that you may have. This is a good opportunity to listen to peers who may have already taken the subjects you're talking about, and you can get and kind of pick their brains as to, what they found to be tricky or whatever it's going to be for those particular subjects. But again, it's a free resource in addition to the teachers themselves. So please make sure if you are unsure about the material, you're taking whatever necessary steps you can to kind of reinforce the skills and strategies that will hopefully lead to your success. I will now pass it off to Mrs. Leonard, who's going to talk about managing stress and some other things that lead into the midterms themselves.
So for managing stress, Mr. Mullen already touched base on this a little bit, but staying off social media, especially during a busy academic time such as midterms, can really lower your stress and improve your focus. I know myself, if I have my phone next to me and it's buzzing incessantly, it is distracting. So if you can put it away in a room where you can't necessarily hear it or see it, that will be much better for you in the long run when you're trying to study. And social media apps, they're designed to pull your attention away, so even short breaks from them can help you feel more calm and more in control. So we can't stress that enough to just try to take a break from social media. And instead of having a marathon study session, we recommend working in blocks, such as 60 to 90 minutes of studying, followed by a 10 to 15-minute break. And this helps maintain your energy and prevent burnout. And during these breaks, they should be restorative. So taking like a short walk, stretching, exercising, maybe doing a few jumping jacks to kind of get the energy levels back up, deep breathing, meditation, positive self-talk. It can really help reduce your fatigue and reset your mind. And be sure to eat a snack and hydrate as well, because that can also play a role in your studying. I know if I'm hungry trying to do something or thirsty, it's harder to focus. So just be sure you're taking care of yourself nutritionally as well. And again, I basically said not to cram for a test because that will increase your stress and it actually reduces your retention. I remember sometimes during college where I did that and it did not end well for me. So I want to be a cautionary tale for you to create a study schedule ahead of time and start preparing early. So now would be a great time to grab your planner. And if you don't have one, maybe get one and map out your next couple of weeks. And you can put in study for X class for 20 minutes and put it in each day or alternate days for different classes, whatever works best for you. But starting small and kind of taking a little bit of time each day is more beneficial. And another strategy is to study the harder material first when you're fresh. Oftentimes, if you try to study the harder material at the end of a night of studying, you might be really tired and have a hard time grasping that material. So try to study the more challenging courses you have first and moving on to the other courses or more challenging concepts and moving on to less challenging ones as you kind of progress in your studying. And we tell you during these periods to try to limit, or I don't want to say not do your extracurricular activities, but if you can kind of scale back a little bit, that could be really helpful just to not have that extra stress added to your plate in addition to your academics. So yes, do participate in these activities, but maybe scale back a little bit. And then again, I can't stress enough, and we'll say it many times to you over this webinar or in person, but reducing social media is important because it can cause anxiety, interrupt your focus, and it's just really helpful to kind of put that aside so you can focus on the task at hand. Do the next slide. All right, so during the exam, before you begin, it's important to take a moment, breathe. You're all in it together with your classmates, and try to center yourself while you're seated. So I suggest small physical movements such as stretching your fingers or rolling your shoulders, pressing your feet into the floor. It can kind of help distract your mind and ground yourself a little bit. And then when you get the exam, it's good to take a look at all the questions on there to get a sense of what kinds are on there, and it helps you kind of plan your time accordingly. But it's also important when you're reading through these questions to not panic. You might not know what the first question, so move on to the next one. And sometimes starting to answer a different question might jog your memory so you can go back to the first question that you thought was challenging. So just give yourself a chance to sift through and answer a question you understand, and then you can always go back to the previous one that you didn't at first. And then some quick reset techniques. If you feel yourself starting to panic, put your pencil down for a moment, do some of those movements that I mentioned before, your finger stretching, rolling your shoulders. Deep breathing can be really effective. So if you take a slow breath, you hold it briefly and exhale through your nose. Do this 3 times. It just really helps calm your central nervous system and slow your heart rate. And another technique that can be helpful for students or even anybody in general if they're in an anxious moment is to notice your surroundings. Pick 5 things you can see or 2 things you can hear, and it can kind of distract your mind a little bit to help calm you and reset you. Even clenching or unclenching your fists or your quads or your jaw, that helps to kind of focus on that attention for a moment and then relax when you release it. I think 3rd slide, next one. And then once you're settled after doing those other possible movements and muscle relaxation, you can also have positive self-talk. You can say in your head, I got this, I studied and I know this. Sometimes we have to say these things to ourselves repeatedly in order for them to stick, and it can help build your confidence and reduce anxiety. And again, like I said before, scan the test to get an overall sense. Start with the questions that you know well, and then leave the harder ones for later. And then it's important to not rush through the exam either. So you do have, I think it's an hour and a half to take the exam. So you should have plenty of time to get through each question and then be able to go back and check your work. But again, the same techniques I mentioned before. If you need to take a break, just put your pencil down, take a deep breath or a few, stretch, reposition yourself, and then try to reset, refocus, and attempt the question again. And if you don't know it after reading it a few times and going through the test, that's okay. Just do the best that you can, and that's really the most important thing. And after completing the test, I already said this, take time to review your answers, any mistakes or missed questions. I know math in particular could be one where if you're missing like one little step, that could throw you off. So it's really important to kind of check the fine detail on your questions. And that's about it for me. I think it's off to Ms. Futrell.
Thank you, Ms. Leonard. So we've given you a bunch of information about midterms and how to prepare and things that you can do. So we'll just wrap it up with keeping things in perspective. So one of the things I want you to remember is that This is all over the work that you have done in class. So you have been doing this right along all semester. You're prepared for this exam, and if you've done the tips that we've given you, you will be okay. One test is not the end of the world. And you know what? You'll learn something from this. And like we said, for many of you, this is the first time taking midterms. So it's kind of overwhelming and causes anxiety. But once you get one under your belt, you'll know what you need to do and what you're looking for in your next exams. But you've been preparing for this all semester. So try not to be too worried about it and just do your best. You will be okay. As Mrs. Poznansky said at the beginning, regardless of your midterm grades, you will go to college. If that is your future goal, there are colleges out there for everyone, and this test is not going to break that dream of yours. This is just a test to see your knowledge, and you've been working on this right along. We all have times where things don't go the way that we want. A test is one of the big things that we start with in life that we might not be successful at. But it's a process, and you'll learn more about yourself as you take these exams and where your strengths and weaknesses are, and maybe better ways to study and prepare for these exams. So don't let it get you down if you struggle on that first exam. Go to your teachers and ask for how you can find different ways to study, or come see us and we can give you some tips for different exams and different types that there may be that you've been working on. If it's essay, if it's true or false, multiple choice, there are different techniques that you can learn to help you get through these exams. Again, we talked about what you can do to kind of prepare, and that'd be taking care of yourself. So you want to make sure that you get good rest. Don't study till exhaustion. It's not beneficial. The more sleep you get, the more rested you are, the less anxious you'll be, and the more clear your mind will be in the morning. So resting is so important. Cramming is not going to help you get through these exams, but studying a little bit each day will help you prepare in a much more efficient and effective way. You want to make sure that you clear your mind and reduce that anxiety. Again, we can't stress it enough. Staying off your phone, staying off social media will really help keep you calm and centered. So if you can do that, we purposely don't want you to look at your phone because of that, just to keep you in a very refreshed and calm spot. Eat healthy meals. Try to stay away from sugary sweets, drinks, your power drinks that you get in the morning that are filled with caffeine, because those can also cause anxiety before taking a test. So using the techniques that we've given you, and staying away from things that are not healthy, but that are healthy, and exercising, those will all help you get through this, what seems to be very stressful and overwhelming. But again, you've got this. You've been studying it for the whole semester, and now it's just a matter to take what you've learned and put it back on paper. So we want to thank you for listening to our webinar. And if you have any questions or if you need any help, make sure to see your teachers, talk to the NHS tutors, or come see us down in counseling. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.